Okay, so now a little bit of silent sitting. So when we're doing the silent sitting, this is not an excuse to shame yourself that you can't do something, or beat yourself up that you're not doing enough of it, or putting it down because it feels scary to you. All it is sitting. There's no goal, there's no destination. Even if I suggest a meditation technique and you do it, there's no winners. Like it's you know, the meditation technique where I say suggesting to count to 10 and then coming back to 1. If you go off to 9,999, the fact that you participated is amazing. Like, it's not that you lose because you can't stay to number 10. It's the reason the exercise is done is because it requires concentration. So by having that time at the 10th breath and coming back to number 1, that requires you to concentrate. If you just kept counting to 100, you can go on to automatic. But the fact that you have a number which you have to bring it back, it means you have to follow the numbers. That's why it's designed. But if you fail to concentrate, that's not a failure. The fact that you're sitting there doing it is the success. Like, meditation isn't a destination. So and it's not about you becoming enlightened. It's not about you achieving something or being better than your neighbor. It's just presenting yourself, and the presenting is the success. I was taught by great meditation teachers at the London Buddhist Centre, East London. It's called the London, but it's actually in East London. It's in Bethnal Green, and they were always so clear that just presenting yourself is the success. And then even if you don't present yourself, like, just being open to it is the success. Like, there's no failure. Like, it's not another reason to shame yourself or to tell yourself that you're a failure because you haven't done it. Like, being open to it is a success. Even being close to it is a success. We're often always setting these poles, these markers, barge poles. Is that it? Barge poles, markers, to judge yourself. And this subject isn't about judging yourself. This is about there is no self. So it's not about you getting to something. And the meditation isn't about seeing through the self, because who would see through the self? The meditation is simply about relaxing the self, relaxing the person, and in that relaxation, then something else is introduced. And I suppose that's a method that seems to be happening through Lisa, even though it really isn't a method. But because I really don't see someone there that could or couldn't do a method. But something that seems to be arising is me recommending settling the person down, because even when I work with people in one-to-one sessions, I intuitively go to settle someone down before I start speaking about non-duality. And then when the person is more relaxed, then it just naturally comes for me to speak about non-duality. And I intuitively feel a bit opposed to speaking about non-duality if the person's not settled. Like, it feels wrong. It feels like I'm adding to their story or something. Like, I'm adding to their seeking energy to avoid what's actually happening. So intuitively, I always go to settle people down. And then once the person's more settled, then non-duality is spoken of. That doesn't mean it's the right way to do non-duality. It's just most probably the path in which the Lisa character travelled. So therefore, that's what seems to come through my body now, is there was a lot of relaxation that needs to happen. But if someone came to non-duality already quite relaxed, then maybe they won't teach like that. So it doesn't mean it's the right way. We love that, the mind. It's like, this is the way it is. It's just what comes through this machine. And what comes through this machine is going to be dependent on what this machine has interacted with in the past Like, I'm not going to suddenly start speaking out of character and start speaking Japanese. I'm going to speak in what more than likely I have engaged in. But sometimes that can also be toppled over, that you get people that channel things that are completely nothing to do with them, what they've experienced. So the meditations that I recommend is one, moving your attention back to presence. So every time your mind drifts off, like moving your attention back to what's happening, moving it to consciousness or to the I am. Another meditation practice that I recommend is counting the breath. So every time you breathe in, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to number 10. And then when you get to number 10, you bring it back to number 1. And that's called the mindfulness of breathing. And then the third one is not doing anything, just sitting there and allowing you to drift off into thought, allowing your mind to do whatever it wants or to be present, just allowing it to rest. Know at the same time that it's illusory, that there is a me, a separate me here that can prescribe to a separate you there. There is words coming out, and those words in one consciousness might be heard or not heard, and there might be action taken or not taken, and whatever happens is perfect. So whether you do it or you don't do it, it is perfection. The person that does it isn't closer to enlightenment. The person that doesn't do it isn't further away from enlightenment. It's just what's happening. When there is more surrender to what's happening, then you begin to see that there isn't actually individuation, there isn't doership. Okay, now I'm just going to ring my invisible bell. Actually, maybe I can make a bell quickly. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't work so well. But yeah, now we start meditating. Okay, so what is the title of this talk? Let's see. Non-duality. What does consciousness mean? Okay.